The top court upholds a Chinese university associate professor's appeal against murder convictions and orders a retrial. And word that Israel and Hamas are close to a truce agreement as battles continue in Gaza. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The city's top court has overturned the convictions of former Chinese University Associate Professor Ko Kim-sun over an alleged yoga ball murder of his wife and daughter. The 5 judges hearing the appeal ruled unanimously in favor of Ko and ordered a retrial. Given a chance to clear his name, Ko Kim-sun, a former associate medical professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong and a trained anesthesiologist, was convicted of 2 counts of murder in 2018 and sentenced to life in prison. After serving time behind bars for 5 years, Ko saw his convictions quashed at the Court of Final Appeal. Multiple key pieces of evidence, including the yoga ball, were taken to the court. In May 2015, Ko's wife and daughter were found unconscious in a private car and later certified dead due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Police arrested Ko after 1 year of investigations. He was accused of putting a yoga ball filled with carbon monoxide into the boot of the car, with the gas leaking out and killing the pair. In 2018, a high court jury found Ko guilty of murder in a unanimous decision. Today, the case was heard by 5 judges, including Chief Justice Andrew Zheng. One key contention in the appeal is about the yoga ball stopper and who put the gas-filled ball in the car. This as police only discovered half a year after the pair's deaths that the lethal gas was released from the yoga ball and the ball did not have a plug. Police later found the stopper in a drawer in Ko's study room. Ko's lawyer said in the appeal that the High Court judge misdirected the jury in the trial by telling them that the yoga ball stopper should be part of the evidence against him. That's without mentioning possible mistakes by police officers when handling evidence or misplacement of the yoga ball stopper after half a year. Ko's lawyer also said there were multiple lapses on the part of the trial judge when giving directions to the jury. For instance, she shouldn't have ruled out the possibility that the yoga ball was put in the car by the wife and daughter. The lawyer added that Ko had an alibi that he left for a lecture at CUHK 2 hours before the pair got on the car. The lawyer also said the directions regarding the stopper could have steered the jury towards an impermissible line of reasoning that rejected the possibility of Ko's daughter using carbon monoxide to kill insects. When granting leave for an appeal in June this year, the top court's appeal committee already described the prosecution's grave injustice when handling the yoga ball stopper as evidence. The Court of Final Appeal has ordered a retrial, and Ko Kim-sun appeared normal upon hearing the development. Chief Executive John Lai said Financial Secretary Paul Chan's attendance at last week's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit on his behalf has helped the city improve regional cooperation. Lee earlier said he could not attend because of itinerary issues. While rebuffing U.S. sanctions on him as unreasonable, the city leader admits the sanctions will affect the city's publicity campaign. During last week's APEC economic leaders meeting in San Francisco, Financial Secretary Paul Chan sat next to President Xi Jinping. Representing Hong Kong, Chan had brief conversations with President Xi over 2 days during the summit. Ahead of the weekly Executive Council meeting this morning, Chief Executive John Lai said the finance chief achieved the 3 goals of explaining the strengths of Hong Kong to the world, building friendship and establishing regional cooperation at the meeting.
I thank the Financial Secretary's attendance at APEC.
When asked if it's a pity that he missed a chance to talk with the president, Lee said he conducts duty visits to Beijing every year, and he can communicate with the state leader through various channels. He also commented on trade relations between Hong Kong and the U.S.
In fact, the U.S. has been enjoying one of the biggest returns in bilateral trade between Hong Kong and the U.S. And I think that should be something that the U.S. should pay serious attention to, because trade will benefit people of both places. And, of course, we see the trade surplus goes very much to the U.S. side.
While the meeting between the top leaders of China and the U.S. has set sights on improving bilateral relations, U.S. sanctions against John Lai remain in effect. When asked if he's confident that such sanctions would be removed by the U.S.,
concerning the unreasonable sanctions on myself, I sneer at it. Still, sanctions against the chief executive would affect the communication between governments, and they will also undermine our publicity campaigns.
Following some U.S. lawmakers' proposal to sanction Hong Kong officials, judges, and prosecutors, there are concerns that Article 55 of the National Security Law could be invoked to transfer some trials to the mainland. The city leader said Hong Kong courts are capable of handling the cases themselves and will be aware of any foreign interference. Israel and Hamas are close to a truce agreement, Reuters quoted the Palestinian group's political leader as saying. This after days of Qatari brokered talks between Israel, Hamas, and the United States as fighting in Gaza rages on. The deal would include the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas and Palestinian prisoners in Israel. Around 13,300 people in Gaza have been killed since October 7th, when Hamas fighters launched an attack on Israel, resulting in around 1,200 deaths and some 240 people taken hostage. Nasbi Karim with more.
Frustration for families of Israelis taken captive on October 7th, after their government said wiping out Hamas takes priority over freeing the hostages.
This is incredibly disappointing because I feel that at this point, when we know that taking down Hamas, we keep hearing from them, is going to take months or years, and it's going to take a long time.
But there is hope on the horizon for some families, with the potential truce between Israel and Hamas edging closer, involving the release of many hostages.
But as you heard the Deputy National Security Advisor say yesterday, we believe we're closer than we've ever been. So we're hopeful, but there's still work to be done, and nothing is done until it's all done. So we're going to keep working on this.
Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh has told Reuters that Israel and his group are close to a truce during Qatari brokered talks. The agreement would call for a halt in the fighting and the release of a significant number of hostages held by Hamas, mostly women and children, while Israel would free Palestinians held prisoner in Israeli jails. A Hamas official told Al Jazeera the focus of the talks is on how long a truce would last and the delivery of aid into Gaza. Amid intense discussions to end the fighting, the bombs continue to drop and civilians suffer. Reports say a total of 40 people were killed after Israeli strikes on the Nusayrat and Bureij refugee camps. The Indonesia hospital in northern Gaza is now under siege, with 12 people reportedly killed after Israel forces fired on the facility, which houses some 700 patients and 2,000 displaced people. Israel's military said they were responding to shots from the hospital, though staff said there were no Hamas fighters inside.
President Xi Jinping will attend a BRICS extraordinary virtual summit on the Palestinian-Israeli issue tonight at the invitation of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. President Xi is expected to deliver important remarks in Beijing. The virtual meeting will be attended by leaders of the bloc, including Ramaphosa and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The leaders of upcoming BRICS members, including Iran, the UAE, and Egypt, will also participate in the meeting, along with UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. The leaders are expected to adopt a joint declaration on the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza. In a phone conversation yesterday, President Xi and French President Emmanuel Macron both agreed that it is imperative to avoid further deterioration of the conflict, and a two-state solution is the fundamental way out. Still ahead, the U.S. pledges new military aid to Ukraine in its war against Russia. An average 3.8% increase in pay for Cathay Pacific staff next year. And the city's latest inflation rate at 2.7%. Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin pledged $100 million in new military aid to Ukraine during an unannounced visit to Kyiv on Monday. He also outlined Washington's plans to support Ukraine in the long term amid growing concerns about the sustainability of vital U.S. assistance. Daniel Rao tells us more.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin announced the aid package after a day of meetings with Ukrainian officials in what was his first visit to Kyiv since April 2022. The latest tranche of assistance includes various types of weapons, which were detailed by Austin.
So I announced today another $100 million drawdown using presidential drawdown authority that it'll provide additional artillery munitions, additional interceptors for air defense, and a number of anti-tank weapons as well. So, our support continues, but you're right. Other allies and partners are also stepping up to the plate as well.
The U.S. Secretary of Defense also pledged Washington's continued backing for Ukraine amid ongoing debate in the U.S. Congress over to what extent to fund the country's war effort against Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told Austin that his visit was a very important signal for Ukraine and that Kyiv counts on Washington's support. The United States has provided more than $44 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion of the country in February 2022. However, a vocal bloc of Republicans oppose sending more aid to Ukraine. Opponents of the aid have said U.S. taxpayers' money should be spent at home, or that military assistance for Israel, which is locked in conflict with Hamas, should be prioritized. However, a majority of Republicans and Democrats in Congress still support aid to Zelensky's government. A joint Ukraine-U.S. military industry conference in Washington is due to take place on December 6th and 7th. The aim of the conference is to boost Ukraine's domestic arms production as the war drags towards the 2-year mark. Russia now controls nearly a fifth of Ukraine. The West sent in military equipment and Ukraine mounted a counter-offensive push this year to retake occupied land. Ukraine's forces have yet to make a significant breakthrough. Dunwell, TV News.
Cathay Pacific has announced a salary increase for all eligible local employees by an average of 3.8%, starting in January next year, plus a 1-month discretionary bonus. The pay rise is higher than the 3.3% last year. Around 1 year in after the border reopened, the city's flagship carrier has returned to profit. Salary adjustments for staff based outside Hong Kong will be announced at a later date. In September, Hong Kong International Airport recorded 3.3 million passengers, 6 times the corresponding figure of last year. Flight traffic also doubled year-on-year to nearly 24,200. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said he is optimistic the airport traffic can reach 80% of pre-pandemic levels by the end of this year and achieve full recovery early next year. But on the global supply chain, logistics, maritime and aviation industries, Chan said more exploration is needed beyond traditional markets.
Business is back and Hong Kong's economy is rebounding. Given the lingering geopolitics and geoeconomic fragmentation, such as reshoring, friendshoring, or even onshoring, while traditional markets such as Europe and the United States will remain important, the need to diversify will drive people to look for new markets and new sources of supply. That means there will be more business with the ASEAN, the Middle East, and the countries along the Belt and Road.
The Consumer Price Index for October rose 2.7% year-on-year, higher than the 2% increase in September. The government spokesman said it's expected that the overall inflation should stay moderate in the near term, as external price pressures are anticipated to soften further. After netting out the effects of all government one-off relief measures, the increase in the composite CPI for October is 1.7%. Smaller than the 1.8% hike in September. Among the sectors experiencing the highest price hikes in October, alcoholic drinks and tobacco products shot up 18.3%, while prices for clothing and footwear rose 6.3%. Prices for meals out and takeaway food went up by 3.9%, but durable goods were 1.2% cheaper. Local travel agency says customers traveling to South Korea can get a refund if they find bed bugs in their hotel room. Wing On Travel has made the arrangements for participants of its tours to South Korea between next month and February 2024. If these travelers find live bedbugs in their hotel rooms, tour buses, or restaurants, the first person in the tour group who informs staff members about the bugs will get a refund after the trip. The agency noted it has been receiving relevant information from South Korean authorities since this summer. So far, it has not been informed about bedbugs involving tour groups in the country. The Hong Kong Palace Museum and the UK National Gallery have put together an exhibition to showcase 52 masterpieces by 50 world-renowned artists, including Van Gogh and Monet. Sharon Tang reports.
Stepping into this exhibition hall at the Hong Kong Palace Museum, visitors would be able to see this famous painting from Britain, The Red Boy, a portrait under the hands of then-President of the Royal Academy, Sir Thomas Lawrence, in 1825. The subject was Charles Lambton, who was only 6 years old at the time. It was the first ever painting to feature on a British postage stamp. The UK National Gallery has lent a total of 52 famous paintings, and the works are divided into 6 sections. The topics span from religion and mythology to scenery and portraits, covering artistic styles from the Renaissance to Impressionism, spanning some 400 years of Western art history. There are also masterpieces by Botticelli from the early 15th century, as well as works by Claude Monet and Vincent van Gogh. One of the works even incorporated multimedia elements to enhance visitors' experience.
I know that the Hong Kong Palace Museum is building up its reputation as a host to significant exhibitions from abroad, so I hope that this helps in that regard. For us, it's really about audience building and building relationships with a significant new museum in Hong Kong.
The exhibition begins on Wednesday and will continue until April next year. Adult tickets are priced at $150, while special tickets are priced at $75. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.